talk to us a little bit more on that, on a personal level, about that moment of impact of when you're sitting in the car with your dad, feeling like you're going to throw up, and you're like, okay, this really is just not going to work. It's like I have, you come kind of almost to this culmination of understanding this is exactly what failure is. You almost don't understand it up to that point, and you're like, okay, this is failure. Talk to us about that emotion and mental battle that's occurring then.
Yeah, for sure. I hope everyone listening to or watching this show feels that at some time. It's a tragic startup story. Wherein you feel the pain of that failure so intensely that it guides your life in a direction. But it's also crucial. I think a lot of what we talk about, and the reason this show exists, is because failure is important to life, and it's there's so many other worlds where there are things that people always thought were really bad for you, and it turns out they're not really bad. It's just the way people were looking at it. My wife's a personal trainer, and they're always going through these cycles in health and fitness.
Yeah.
Don't eat eggs, are really bad for you. They give you high cholesterol. Oh wait, we were just kidding. Just don't eat like a dozen a day. So we fail the same way everyone else fails in startup world. It's just a little bit different.
Yeah. What kind of, how old were you when that happened? That sitting in the car, was that right out of college?
Yeah, I was probably 21, 22.
Yeah. I don't even know what I would have done at that point. I don't even know if I would have had the maturity to be like, okay, move on, kind of a thing. So, and obviously you did have that mindset to be like, okay, mistake, that sucked, but got to keep going forward. What were you telling yourself, if you can think back to then? What were you telling yourself to get back on the horse, and how were you, fighting that and winning that battle inside yourself?
Right. Well, this is kind of a good segue to, I'm sure, some of the other topics you want to talk about in terms of having partners and mentors and people you can trust in to provide good information or good advice to you. My father was always that to me. Like I said, I think he expected me to fail. I don't know how quickly he expected me to fail. Maybe it wasn't 6 months, but he was there for me and guiding me into my next step. So he was my first mentor. The second thing was I was already married. So I got married right out of college. My wife and I have been married for 10 years now. So that's the only thing I did early, I guess, unless you're looking at the 50s. My grandma lied on her birth certificate so she could get married when she was 15.
Oh.
But that's not normal anymore. But my wife has been just a great person, a good sounding board. She's been along every step of the way with me. She had a small business management degree in college and worked in a bank for 1 year and decided that she wasn't going to do that either. So that's when we picked up and moved to Chicago, which is right after this point of failure I had with my parents' company. And she did hip hop and jazz and ballet dancing at a school in Chicago while I was working on the side building this t-shirt printing company.
Yeah. We don't want to communicate to anyone out there watching, though, that one of the things you should do in order to encourage yourself to get past failure or to not fail is to get married. That would be an interesting reason to get married.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, number one partner you're going to have, and also the number one adversary will be a girlfriend. I mean, if you're lucky, you found someone who understands what the startup life is about, and they can understand the struggles. Luckily, my wife she works from home now, and she's starting her own company. So she understands the pain. She's worked for my companies in the past too. So I'm pretty fortunate to have what I call a startup wife.
Yeah.
I don't think most people are so lucky. You get a girlfriend who the computer's spending all your time, or you're skipping out on date night because you have a server crash and you have to, go tend to that, or you're getting a terrible night's sleep because you're waking up every hour to go check on the website to make sure it's not crashing under the new traffic, or, all this different stuff. Most wives or girlfriends aren't really cool with that. So I am pretty fortunate in that respect.
Tell us some other examples or advice that you think are really implemental in helping you either reduce the amount of failure that you experience as an entrepreneur, or helping you, if you do fail, helping you to get past and move on to the next stage?
Right. So we already talked about mentorship. I think that's the number one thing, is finding a good mentor. The second thing would be having the ability to learn. A lot of times I talk to older entrepreneurs who may have been working for a company for a long time. They had a desk job, or it could even been an important job, but they've spent a long time being the decision maker and not the person learning or finding the nuances or whatever. So if for older entrepreneurs, one of the key things I like to express is make sure you relearn how to learn.
Yeah.
Because if you're 40 years old, you haven't been in college probably for 20 years, or you haven't been in primary education for even longer, and you may forget what it's like to learn. You may remember hearing and making decisions, but learning is completely different from just those two things. I guess that leads up to the ability to make these things we call the business critical decisions. Like I said, if you're young, a lot of times you don't have experience doing this. When something happens, you look at it and you may not know what to do. And that's where mentorship comes in. But what's important is that you learn how to make those decisions. And if you get involved with any kind of entrepreneurship program, most colleges have them these days, or even like in Nashville, if you get involved at the Entrepreneur Center downtown, they have 2 or 3 presentations a week. They host local meetups in every language, Ruby, PHP, you name it. They have series on moving from just being a developer to a founder of a company. There's a lot of great stuff going on, and just opening your eyes and being willing to accept or to learn all this stuff that's out there and apply it to your life or to your business will teach you how to make these decisions in life that will make your startup successful.
Yeah. I completely agree, especially on the mentor side, and also to say to anybody out there that's in the position to mentor someone else, really being open, or if you're not mentoring someone but you have experience in entrepreneurship and everything like that. The young or new entrepreneurs are really counting on that side as well, to be open to teaching and passing on knowledge, like doing video or doing interviews like this through Editing Equation, or whatever other resource online, writing blog posts, anything like that. You really got to convey that knowledge and pass that wisdom on as well.
Right, and that's a lot about what the Jumpstart Foundry is about. A bunch of us got together, last year and said, not only how do we make Nashville a better place to live, but how do we pass on the knowledge that we've gained over the years, and how do we be good mentors to everyone else? How do we steward this information to make the next generation people better than us? When I was going through this process the first time, other than my parents, I didn't have anyone I could turn to. Everyone else was working in a factory, or the guys I went to school with they all moved back to our hometown of 3,000 people, and they all thought they were going to be the high school football coach. And just so you know, that guy 20 years later is still the same guy. So yeah. It's not a job that cycles a whole lot for these folks. But a lot of us have these wounds and these scars from the startup life, and we're happy to pass on that knowledge so younger entrepreneurs like yourself can get past that step more quickly and be successful sooner.